Spencer Callahan. I'd like to help.
Spencer Callahan is the one to see. Call 387-2323.
LA filing number 16-7970.
WNXX Jackson, KNXX Donaldsonville, and WDGL HD2 Baton Rouge. This hour brought to you by Spencer Callahan Injury Lawyers. LA 21 12681. Offices in Baton Rouge. Now, the Hunt Palmer Show.
Yes! I feel like I've been waiting for this my entire life.
You're listening to the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Jolly good fun. Jolly good.
Locking down the middle of the day.
America's favorite daytime fun show.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in a Monday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. Taylor Sharp sitting in for Hunt Palmer at least today and tomorrow, probably today, tomorrow, and Wednesday. Look, for those of you who don't know, most of you already do because Hunt posted it. We talked a little bit about it this morning on Off the Bench. Hunt Palmer is a brand new dad, everyone. Keller Joseph Palmer. Came into the world yesterday afternoon. So our guy Hunt has been a busy man. Look, we got Jacob Beck, Kessie Bazzali here with us. Guys, y'all would know this better than me. I think Cassie told me this before the show, Beck. I don't know if either of you can confirm this. Hunt and his wife did not know if this baby was a boy or a girl until it came.
That's correct. I think, yeah.
Hunt screams gender reveal party to me, though. Like, this is shocking to me. And this is the second time they've done that?
Yeah, the first one I think they didn't know either. Yeah,
I don't know. Hunt doesn't seem like
the
gender reveal type person.
So, to me, screams. Okay, so you and your wife are having a baby. Now, I know it's early on. I'm not asking you to announce anything, but are y'all planning a gender reveal party, or are you doing something similar?
Yeah, we are. We're not gonna wait till the baby's born.
You're having the whole party. All that, you got to find a creative way to bust the pinata or whatever it is with the blue or pink powder.
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna be anything that crazy. I don't know. I wasn't super enthused about doing it, but I wasn't against it.
Well, it's not your decision anyway.
Yeah, no, it's not. So
you're just gonna have to roll with it. Okay. Before we get started, funny story about a gender reveal party. This is about 12, 13 years ago now. I mean, I think I was a sophomore, junior in high school, something like that. We were coming home as a family from some trip, I don't know, and we wound up having to take a back way to our house because there was traffic on the interstate, an accident, something like that. And we're driving, it's Kane Market Road out in Walker, for those who are familiar. We're driving on Kane Market. The road is shut down. There are no less than 4 or 5 cop cars. Cops have their guns out. There is a guy laying on his stomach in the front yard, in handcuffs, the whole 9 yards. And right next to the guy laying down being arrested, there was a sign that said, "It's a boy." So this was a gender reveal party gone wrong. Turns out what happened was the father of the child and the current boyfriend were not the same people. That's pretty much a recipe for disaster, right?
Yeah, that's not good.
Apparently, the biological father showed up at the party. He had words with the current boyfriend of the girl who was having the baby. Words were exchanged. Someone threatened to harm someone with weapons and the whole thing. And then that was my first experience with gender reveal parties. We drove right by it. We saw the entire thing. And I was like, look, only in Walker, Louisiana could you have the police called and people getting arrested at a gender reveal party. Look, whenever it comes time for me and my wife, I don't know if we're doing a gender reveal party. I certainly hope not. Now, I do want to know if the baby is a boy or a girl, probably before due date. I'm not going to go as extreme as our guy Hunt Palmer. But, yeah, gender reveal parties can go bad in a hurry. Do you know what you guys are going to do for a gender reveal party yet? Have we planned that far ahead?
We don't know what we don't know how it's gonna be revealed. I guess I don't know. We're not sure.
I see Beck doing golf ball. Hits the golf ball, it explodes, blue or pink powder.
Yeah,
I'm
people
thinking
have suggested that before. Yeah,
I'm thinking that. I'm surprised Hunt did not do this. He seems like that would be right up his alley. He would not be enthusiastic about it at all. Hunt wouldn't want to be there, but it does seem like that is something that him and his wife would do. But apparently not. And congratulations to Hunt and his wife. Their second child and 2 boys back to back. So I'm sure Hunt is excited about that. See, maybe we'll see him on the baseball diamond for too much longer. Hunt's going to take him golfing with him. He's going to have himself a heck of a time. All right, look, a lot to get to on today's show. Derek Carr news about contract restructuring. Less than an hour ago, big-time news broke about a Saints free agent. It is devastating for New Orleans. We'll get into that as well. LSU spring football kicked off on Saturday. A notable name was absent for practice. We'll tell you why. And LSU baseball had their final non-conference weekend series before SEC play starts against Missouri this coming Friday. We'll get into all of that, but let's get the show started like we do every day.
It's time for Hunt's Opening Drive, presented by Genesis of Baton Rouge.
LSU baseball wrapped up their final non-conference weekend series of the 2025 baseball season against North Alabama. I'm going to kind of give you a recap game by game, and then I'll give you my overall thoughts. Look, North Alabama is who they are. They came into this series 2-7 on the year. They had lost 5 games in a row. They were 0-6 on the road. They are what they are. They are not a very good baseball team. Look, in game 1, LSU scored 13-2. It was a 7-inning game. They run ruled them due to the 10-run rule. They hit 6 home runs on Friday night. That was kind of the one big thing I wanted to see. A little bit more power in the lineup. You've seen it in spurts. I mean, you know Jared Jones can tear the cover off the ball. Daniel Dickinson's been hitting the ball well. He's hit a few homers in the last few games. Stephen Milam's hit some homers, but I wanted to see it top to bottom in the lineup. When you hit 6 home runs in the same game, that's all I needed to see. Again, 6 different Tigers. Daniel Dickinson, Josh Pearson, who we'll get into. He had a big weekend. Stephen Milam, Luis Hernandez, your catcher. He's now batting like 280 on the season. If he can do that, he's your everyday catcher. The catcher conversation is over as far as I'm concerned if Luis Hernandez can keep up his hitting at the plate. Tanner Reeves, pinch hitter John Pearson. John and Josh Pearson obviously hit home runs in the same game. We were looking into like, hey, when's the last time that happened? The Harris brothers, Clay and Will Harris, actually did it. It was the first time this has happened since 2005. However, the Harris brothers actually did it 3 times at LSU. I imagine we're going to see it a few more times from John and Josh Pearson. But Cade Anderson, dominant again in the start. I mean, he goes 6 innings. He strikes out 11 batters, did not walk a single runner, gave up 1 earned run, only gave up 4 hits. He was dominant. I mean, his ERA right now is 2.06 on the year. He is your ace. There is no question about it. You have a dominant Friday night guy, and more importantly, a dominant lefty starter on the mound for you on Friday nights. Right now, the way Cade Anderson's pitching, I mean, you'd be hard-pressed to find 3 Friday night guys that have looked as complete as Cade Anderson so far. In the 7th inning, you went to Maverick Rizzi. He did give up a run. He gave up a walk. Didn't strike out anybody. He managed. He got through it, and LSU ultimately 10-run ruled them in 7 innings. As far as game 2 goes, it was Anthony Ianson. And when the game started, you got a little worried because what did we talk about with Anthony Ianson? He gets touched up a little early in games. Now, he always seems to bounce back. Look, that's the same thing here. He gave up 2 early runs. However, Anthony Ianson threw 7 innings, and he struck out 15 batters. He was dominant. 15 Ks is actually the most by an LSU pitcher since Ty Floyd had the 17 strikeouts in Game 1 of the College World Series against Florida when he was phenomenal. Look, Jared Jones, he went 3 for 4 at the plate. He had 2 doubles. He hit a 2-run homer. Again, I mentioned his hot hitting streak. And then Game 3, look, LSU took a 4-0 lead after the bottom of the 1st inning. Jared Jones, 2-run homer, his 6th dinger of the year. Jake Brown hit a home run. In Game 2, Josh Pearson hit a grand slam. That was his first grand slam as a Tiger. We talked about this last week when I filled in for Jake and T-Bub on Off the Bench. Josh Pearson is in your lineup somewhere every day, whether it's at right field, whether it's a DH. He's in your lineup. Remember coming into the year, there were about 3 or 4 guys. You had Josh Pearson, Jake Brown, Ashton Larson, and a couple younger guys all kind of battling for 2 spots. I don't care if it's DH, right field. Josh Pearson is in your everyday lineup. That's it. I mean, he has to be. He's hitting over 300 right now. He's hitting for power. He's hitting for average. He's giving you competitive at-bats. He's not striking out a ton. Josh Pearson has to be in your lineup. Plus, he's a 3-year player for you that was instrumental in your national championship team as a freshman. He had a solid year a year ago after a slow start, and he looks like one of your best hitters in your lineup. He has to stay there. So look, LSU wins game 1, 13-2. They take care of business 6-2 on Saturday, and then they have another big victory in game 3 on Sunday. I said this going into the series, and it kind of rings true coming out of the series as well. This weekend was not about your opponent. It was about you. What do you not do well? You have to work on that because this is your last mulligan as far as a weekend series goes. I understand Missouri's not the cream of the crop of the SEC, but they're still an SEC caliber opponent that's coming up Friday, Saturday, Sunday. First one of the year. A couple important things. One, if Luis Hernandez, like I mentioned earlier, keeps hitting the way he is, you have your catcher position solidified because he's already been better behind the dish than Cade Arrambide. I think Arrambide has a ton of talent. I just don't think he is a very good college catcher at this point. He's young. He's a freshman. He's going to get better, but there's too many pass balls right now. Hernandez has been more consistent there. If he can be the more consistent on the offensive side of things, you have an everyday catcher, or at least a guy you're going to roll out there 80, 90% of the time. Another big thing, how many times have we seen LSU in recent years, whether it's under Jay Johnson, the latter years of Paul Maneri, struggle to find 3 solid weekend starters going into SEC play? You found 2 a number of times. Look, even in 2023, when you won the national championship, you had Paul Skeens, you had Ty Floyd. You wanted it to be Thatcher Hurd. He hadn't stepped it up yet. You were kind of unsure about your game 3 starter. Same thing last year. Gage Jump stepped up for you. You had Luke Holman, who was going to be that number 3 guy. A lot of different guys went in there, but this year you have Cade Anderson, who looks like a stud on Friday night. Anthony Ianson, while he's gotten touched up early in games, he's gotten better as the game goes along. I mentioned he gave up 2 early runs, but he goes 7 innings and strikes out 15 batters. Never gave up a run after those 2 early runs. A lot of times, you'll see a pitcher dominant at the beginning. He gets in a little bit of trouble. He kind of collapses. Thatcher Hurd is a primary example of that. When nobody was on base, Thatcher Hurd was excellent. When batters got on base, things kind of snowballed for him. He kind of collapsed a little bit. Anthony Ianson's the opposite. He may struggle early on, but more times than not, he's gotten out of that jam, and he's been dominant for multiple innings after that. That's big because, look, you're going to get hit in SEC play. People are going to get on base in SEC play. What's your mentality? How's the psyche of a pitcher? So far, Anthony Ianson looks like he has answered that call. And then look, Chase Shores in game 3, a little bit of more pedestrian day for him. Like he goes 5 innings, he strikes out 4, he walks 2, he gave up 2 earned runs. But Chase Shores has been really good in game 3s. I'm not worried about him at all. Like he has a 3.15 ERA on the year. If Shores can do what he's done so far this year in SEC play, and you keep him in that Sunday spot, you might have an advantage over most teams on Sunday because they're not going to have a pitcher as dominant with as good a stuff as a guy like Chase Shores. Look, a lot of guys came in the bullpen that you're going to count on as well. Kason Evans is your closer. When Gavin Guidry comes back and he is 100% healthy, he is going to have a role on this team. He's too talented of a pitcher. He's pitched in a lot of big moments for you the past 2 seasons. But Kason Evans is your closer. I've seen enough multiple times this year in close games when it's only a 2-run game and there's 2 innings to go. Pretty much every single time Jay Johnson has went to Kason Evans, and basically every time Kason Evans has stepped up and he's closed the game out for you. He is your closer. Also, Zach Cohen, he has to be one of your top relievers. Is he the first guy out of the pen? Doesn't really matter, but he has to be there. Maverick Rizzi is going to have a role. Kason Evans is going to have a role. Zach Cohen's going to have a role. Those are 3 guys I think you can count on. Cooper Williams has looked good at times. Connor Benj, you're going to count on him in big moments. All these guys continue to be consistent for LSU. And those were the things we were looking at. Can your starting lineup, can you solidify 1, 2, and 3 going into SEC play? Can you show that you have power in the lineup top to bottom, which it kind of looks like you do? Can you shore up the catcher position? Again, if Luis Hernandez does what he keeps doing what he's done, you're going to do that as well. Everything, at least personally, that I have wanted to see from this team out of conference going into SEC play, they've answered it. Like even last Tuesday against North Dakota State, when they fell behind 7-1 in the 3rd inning, you didn't know how they were going to respond. They responded in a big way and they win that game. In a game they frankly should not have won where they didn't have their best stuff. They found ways to win. That's what good teams do. I was really excited what I saw from the Tigers during their last non-conference weekend series of the season. They'll face Missouri this weekend. Excited to see that as well. Okay, look, we're going to take a timeout. When we get back, The Saints did some restructuring of contracts with one Derek Carr, and Saints fans have a lot of mixed opinions about it. We'll get to that on the other side here on The Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
At Bayou Automotive, we believe in a sales process that puts you first. We want you to experience an easy purchase with clear pricing and great service. Let Bayou Ford and Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram be your trusted partners in finding your perfect vehicle. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared towards seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
At Auctioner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Auctioner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one: you. Auctioner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Family owned and community driven.
Service Chevrolet Cadillac, a legacy you can trust since 1972. Service Chevrolet Cadillac, our family serving your family.
For over 50 years.
Crime has serious consequences, but anyone can make a mistake. If you find yourself in trouble with the law, know that you have rights, and it's okay to demand them. The law offices of O.C. Brown are here to protect you and your rights. Felony or misdemeanor, DUI or drug charge. No matter what crime you're accused of, you still have rights. Let the law offices of O.C. Brown uphold them. Call 225-343-1111, your law firm for a lifetime.
When it comes to choosing energy for your family and your home, make the smart choice with natural gas. You can count on efficient and affordable natural gas to keep you comfortable and reduce your environmental impact to help protect our planet. Together, we're fueling our energy future. Atmos Energy.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products.
Welcome back in, a Monday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. Taylor Sharp filling in for Hunt Palmer, who is left Friday as a father of one. He is now a father of two. Congratulations to Hunt Palmer and his wife, Keller Joseph Palmer. made his appearance into the world yesterday afternoon. So I'm with you. Likely the next 3 days, definitely today and tomorrow. I'll be in contact with Hunt throughout the week. Kind of keep you guys updated as well on what his status is, when he believes he will return to work. Okay, mentioned it a little bit there before going into break. The New Orleans Saints have restructured Derek Carr's contract in order to free up cap space. Now, on the surface, you might think, okay, well, that's not that bad. Well, what they have done is they've converted the majority of Carr's salary into a signing bonus. He's actually going to get the full $40 million that was his contract this year. They're spreading out the cap hit. They will save $30.996 million in the process. Ian Rappaport reported this. It was actually confirmed by Nick Underhill of NewOrleans.football. If the Saints fully restructure the contract, look, Carr will get the $30 million base salary and his $10 million signing bonus. That'll free up the cap space, which is what they ultimately decided to do. Now, what this does, again, I mentioned it frees up over $30 million this year. Great. That's fine. If you're in win now mode, I don't think the Saints are good enough to be in win now mode. But what this does is it makes it a lot harder to move on from Derek Carr in the future. Now, it doesn't marry the Saints to Derek Carr in 2026. However, if they want to move on from him, it'll come with $59 million in dead cap space if you move on from him in 2026. So initially when I heard the report, they've restructured him, they've freed up salary cap, I'm like, okay, fine, we've seen the Saints do this before, but now it almost seems like Derek Carr is going to be here for 2 more seasons. Because what did everybody talk about before this move was made? Hey, if you want to move on from Derek Carr, you can do it. It's going to cost you $51 million in dead cap hit this offseason. Okay, well, if you wait till next offseason, it'll be, $21 million. You'll take half the hit this year, half next year. You're almost in the same boat in 2026. As a matter of fact, you're $8 million more. And that was one of the main reasons anyone who was on the side of, hey, you can't let Derek Carr go this offseason, for what it's worth, I wanted the Saints to just cut ties. Rip off the Band-Aid, take the $51 million cap hit, one offseason, you're in the clear in 2026. But you're not. You didn't solve any of your problems. You just backloaded it to another year. This is what Mickey Loomis always does. So it works for now, but 12 months from now, it's an even bigger issue. Look, this is nothing more than typical Mickey Loomis. Kicking the can down the road. This team is always in win now mode. The problem is you don't have a roster good enough to be in win now mode. Look at your offensive line. So far, they haven't made any big time moves. We'll see what they do in the draft. Free agency's open. We'll see all that. Right now, though, if all you did was re-sign the guys you had last year, left to right, you would have Taliesin Fuaga, who I love. I think that was a really good first-round pick. Lucas Patrick at left guard. Eric McCoy at center. He's a solid player. That's a good piece. Cesar Ruiz at right guard, who you drafted. You didn't know if he was going to play center or guard. He's been very inconsistent. Sometimes he's been good. Sometimes he's been very, very bad. And then Trevor Penning at right tackle, who fans have wanted to get rid of for 3 years now. You have Derek Carr. You free up $30 million. But what are you going to go get with that $30 million? Right now, your top 2 receivers are Chris Olave, who has had number of concussions. We don't even know how much longer he's going to be in this league. And Rashid Shaheed, who's coming off a season-ending injury as well. We talked about it going into last season. The Saints' issue at wide receiver 3. Mason Tipton, Cedric Wilson. Luckily, never thought I would say this, that luckily you were able to sign Marquez Valdez-Scantling halfway through the year. He was the only receiver that showed any sort of signs of being a playmaker on this team through the back half of the year. It becomes really important to keep him, which I don't know if the Saints are going to do. You have Kamara at running back, but again, you just cut Jamal Williams. So at running back, you have Alvin Kamara. Behind him, you have Kendre Miller, who can't seem to stay healthy, and even when he is healthy, he's been inconsistent at best. And Jordan Mims, who's carried the ball like 20 times in his entire career. That's just on the offensive side of things. We'll get into defensive tackle later in the show. They shored that up a little bit here in free agency via trade. We'll get into corner in a minute as well, because big news dropped there. You don't have any depth on defense, even at the spots that you are good at. You need an edge rusher. You need a defensive tackle next to Brian Bresee. Because of the news we'll talk about a little bit later, you're paper thin at corner. You have no safeties outside of Tyrann Mathieu. Jordan Howden is your next best guy, who's a former late-round pick who showed promise year one, wasn't that great last year. Mickey Loomis continues to put this team in win now mode, but the problem is you're not in win now mode. You don't have the roster to be in win now mode. Who can you go get? Because I don't know if you guys know this, earlier this morning, Chris Godwin, who maybe the Saints had a shot of signing him with the salary cap space they freed up, re-signed with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for 3 years. Every team in the NFC South is getting better. Falcons have made moves. The Panthers have made moves. You have not. All you have done is backload Derek Carr's contract once again. It's going to put you in cap hell in 2026. I don't know if Kellen Moore had a hand in any of this. I imagine he did. I imagine he was allowed to at least choose his quarterback. But I don't really get it. And look, the most troubling part about all of this that I have failed to mention is that reports have come out that Derek Carr was open to looking elsewhere for the 2025 season. He was open to a trade. He said that he was willing to, reports came out that he was willing to be traded. Kat Terrell of ESPN reported this. It said, sticking with Carr didn't appear to be certainty when the Saints initially hired Kellen Moore, who sounded non-committal. We talked about that in his press conference. He said, I think Derek Carr is a good quarterback in this league, when asked if that was the quarterback of the future. He was never committed to that. And then other NFL sources believe that Carr was open to testing the free agent market in recent weeks or being shipped off somewhere via trade. Apparently, though, the Saints are the ones that didn't want to do this. And I guess you can look at it and say, okay, the Saints' hands are tied a little bit. Maybe, but maybe not. Now, if you were to cut Carr this offseason, do you roll with Spencer Rattler? You're at 9. I mean, you're not in the top 5. Maybe if you had a top 5 pick, top 3 pick, this would have gone a little different if you could get a Cam Ward, a Shedeur Sanders. Because if you cut Derek Carr, who do you go get? You sign Aaron Rodgers for a 1-year rental? I don't think so. I don't think that's going to work. You guys know my opinion of Aaron Rodgers. You go overpay for Sam Darnold, pay him $40 million a year, who I personally do not think is worth it. I've seen enough of Sam Darnold to know that was probably a flash in the pan in Minnesota. I believe the real Sam Darnold is who we saw at the end of the year, the last 2 or 3 games of the regular season, and that awful playoff game. I think that's who the real Sam Darnold is. Now, we'll find out because somebody's going to pick him up, likely the Seattle Seahawks. But maybe the Saints were thinking, this is our best option. We're kind of tied up in this anyways. We'll take a big cap hit if we cut him this year. We cut him next year. We're kind of in the same boat with this restructuring. Let's see if we can make some sort of run this year. And maybe you can, but you got to go get guys. You got to hit on all of your draft picks because you need every single position. And you got to go get free agents. I just mentioned that the Bucs, Falcons, and Panthers are all getting better. You cannot get left behind in the NFC South. You have had the privilege for a number of years, while your roster hasn't been the best, of saying, hey, we may have a shot at winning the division because the NFC South has been so weak. I'm not sure how weak it is anymore. Baker Mayfield looks like a franchise quarterback. While Bryce Young has been shaky, he looked better after coming back in from being benched from Andy Dalton. And the Falcons admitted their mistake with Kirk Cousins. They went with Michael Penix Jr. He looked like a rookie, but he showed promise as well. The Saints are the only ones that don't seem to have a clue what they're going to do at quarterback for the foreseeable future. Maybe it is Derek Carr, but the move's it's a little confusing move. It's good in the short term, bad in the long term, and I think the Saints need to be building for long-term success instead of short-term because, again, I don't think their roster's good enough to be making moves like this. We'll find out, though, but certainly something to watch. They freed up a little bit of cap space. We'll see what the Saints do in free agency or if they get their name in the trade markets as well, which they have done already. All right, look, when we get back, about an hour before this show started, around noon, big news dropped in free agency. It is very negative for the New Orleans Saints. We'll hit on that on the other side here on the Hunt Palmer Show, 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge, genesisofbatonrouge.com. They're the only Genesis, fully exclusive Genesis dealer in the state of Louisiana, and they're right here in Baton Rouge. I told y'all earlier this week, we were driving, my wife goes, oh, that's that car I really like. It's a Genesis. And she had no idea that I even do this. I was like, yeah, they're really nice. They're really, really nice. And you should know it too. You don't see a ton of Genesis on the road because it's fairly new to our city here. They've only been at that location for a year and a half, but go check it out. It's a luxury vehicle. It's a luxury experience to be a Genesis driver. That means 3 years of complimentary maintenance, a 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty. It's a luxury experience at a reasonable price over at Genesis of Baton Rouge. Every single car that's on the lot at Genesis of Baton Rouge is online at genesisofbatonrouge.com. And all of them, every single model, from the entry level to the highest end, come with the same safety features. Safety is a priority for Genesis. Go check them out. Genesis of Baton Rouge. They're online at genesisofbatonrouge.com. That's Genesis of Baton Rouge.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Baton Rouge's home for real rock. It's Eagle 98.1. Foo Fighters. Led Zeppelin. AC/DC. Pearl Jam. And the flagship home for LSU sports. Take us anywhere with the Eagle 98.1 app. Eagle 98.1 is the rock station.
At Auctioner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Auctioner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one. You. Auctioner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Family owned and community driven.
Service Chevrolet Cadillac, a legacy you can trust since 1972. Service Chevrolet Cadillac, our family serving your family.
For over 50 years.
Crime has serious consequences, but anyone can make a mistake. If you find yourself in trouble with the law, know that you have rights, and it's okay to demand them. The law offices of O.C. Brown are here to protect you and your rights. Felony or misdemeanor, DUI or drug charge. No matter what crime you're accused of, you still have rights. Let the law offices of O.C. Brown uphold them. Call 225-343-111.
This is The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products.
Welcome back in a Monday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. I almost said off the bench, guys. I'm Taylor Sharp here with you, sitting in for, normally I would say a vacationing Hunt Palmer, but our guy's probably busier than anybody here. He is now a father of 2. Him and his wife welcomed their second child into the world yesterday afternoon. We are certainly happy for Hunt. I would tell you what day Hunt's going to be back. I'm not sure. If I had to guess, I would be here Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Hunt being back Thursday, but some things could change. He could be back a day early, day late. He could be out the whole week. We'll figure it out. I've been in contact with him, and he will be back soon, though. I teased it going into break there a little bit that a big free agent signing happened, and it is devastating if you're a fan of the New Orleans Saints. Here's why. Because the New York Giants have added a cornerback. The bad news is they've added Paulson Adebo. It was reported about 45 minutes before this show started that Paulson Adebo has signed a contract with the New York Giants. His time with the New Orleans Saints is officially done. That's huge for a number of reasons. One, you now have a massive hole at the cornerback position. Right now, on your roster, in terms of guys you know that are going to be there, you have Alontae Taylor, who is a very good player. I like Alontae Taylor. He can play outside corner. He can play in the nickel. He's played a little bit of safety. He can do whatever you need him to do. And then you have Kool-Aid McKinstry. Look, JaQuincy McKinstry was the second-round pick out of Alabama last year. Wound up playing a decent amount. Showed flashes. Looked like a rookie at times. Looked really good at times. And you have Rico Payton. Those are the three guys right now in your Saints cornerback room that you know for sure are going to be there next year. At least at the moment. Things could always change. This leaves a massive hole at corner. And it's even bigger because you already have a big hole at safety. We've talked about that a number of times. The safety position being such a big hole for the Saints that maybe you even go there round one depending on who falls. That's something that's been kicked around. But do the Saints have to go corner now in round one? I mean, I know everyone wants them to go D-line, but they've shored up that position. We'll get into that a little bit later. And they could go Tyler Warren if they wanted to do like a best player available. You need an edge rusher. Look, Michael Williams might be there. Jalen Carter might be there. These are guys that have all been linked to the Saints. Garrett Podell of CBS Sports earlier today, now this was before the Paulson Adebo news, put out a mock draft, and at number 9 overall, he had the Saints taking Georgia edge rusher Jalen Walker, who I just mentioned. And that was before the Adebo news, but the bigger point in his mock draft is at 9 overall, Michigan cornerback Will Johnson was still on the board. He had the Saints passing up on him, taking the edge rusher out of Georgia. He had Will Johnson, for what it's worth, going 11 overall to the San Francisco 49ers. 3 years at Michigan. Will Johnson, 68 total tackles, 9 interceptions. He was a really good corner. He's also 6'2", around 200 pounds, so he has the ability to move around a little bit. I just talked about the flexibility and versatility of a guy like Alontae Taylor. Will Johnson brings something similar to you in those regards. If you don't get a corner early in this draft, rounds 1 or 2, you may have to dip into free agency a little bit. The problem with doing that is that there's not a ton of young guys, and the guys that are out there are going to be very high priced. The name to watch is Charvarius Ward from the 49ers, which he is expected to move on from the 49ers, which is why Garrett Podell had the 49ers selecting Will Johnson in the first round. They'll have a hole at corner. Charvarius Ward, really good player. He's 29 years old. He'll be 30 years old by the time the season starts. He made $13.5 million with the San Francisco 49ers on average under his last contract. Now, you just freed up a little bit of cap space. You still have some work to do if you're the Saints. Can you sign a Charvarius Ward? He's a 7-year vet in the NFL. He's been in a number of big games. He's played in Super Bowls with the 49ers. He's had a lot of success. Outside of him, though, you got Jonathan Jones. He'll be 32 by the time the season starts. Byron Murphy. He's 27. He made about $8.5 million with the Vikings. He's been up and down. Jeff Okuda's been a disappointment. Former first-round pick of the Lions. Then he was with the Texans. He's only 26, and that's a guy that had a big contract because he was on a first-round deal. What would you pay him? Kendall Fuller's 30 years old now. Stephon Gilmore is 34. You get the point. Dante Jackson's out there, but he'll be almost 30 years old. Pittsburgh might re-sign him anyways. You have a huge hole at corner and no immediate way to solve that problem other than the NFL draft. So if Will Johnson's there at 9 overall, if you're the New Orleans Saints, you might be forced to take him at this point. You could go safety. Malachi Starks will be there, but this is kind of a deep safety class. It's not really as deep as far as pure outside corner goes in this draft. I mean, you have Will Johnson, but outside of him, it's kind of a decent drop-off. Like, look, if you pull up PFF, I mean, Travis Hunter's obviously your number one corner, but Travis Hunter's going to go somewhere in the top 3. No way will he be there at 9 when you're picking. If Travis Hunter, Jedi Barron is a guy that's been mocked to you a little bit. He would be a surprise pick at 9 overall. Jedi Barron, really good player. Had some success at Texas. Do you grab him at 9 overall? You almost may have to reach for a guy. Because I like Jedi Barron, but if you would have told me last week, hey, the Saints took him in round 1, I'd have been like, well, you know, he's a good player. Could he have been there in round 2? I don't know. If Johnson and Hunter are gone, you're going to have to seriously look at a guy like Jedi Barron. Look, he had a bunch of big-time moments at Texas. That was a top 5 defense in college football a year ago. You know he can play the outside corner. He was shut down at times at Texas. Trey Amos from Ole Miss. He's 40th on the PFF big board. Maxwell Hairston out of Kentucky. He's a guy that will maybe be there in round 2. He was pretty productive in college. He had an excellent NFL combine. He was one of the top winners of the combine, pretty much regardless of who you ask. But can you really wait in the second round to grab a Hairston, to grab a Trey Amos? Will Johnson, I would be perfectly okay with at 9. You may have to reach for a Jedi Barron. If not, how aggressive are you in free agency before the draft? Because you know you have a big hole. You're going to have to sign somebody else regardless. Because you can't just go into the season with whatever rookie corner you draft, Kool-Aid McKinstry, Alante Taylor, and Rico Payton. You're going to have to sign somebody anyways. What type of caliber of guy are you going to sign? That'll depend on what you do in the NFL draft. We talked about them needing everything, but all of a sudden, corner goes to, if not the top of the list, one of the top 3 places to look for the New Orleans Saints in this NFL draft. Again, I'd be okay with it, but it makes a bad situation worse, right, if you're the New Orleans Saints. Because what do we talk about all the time? Well, the good news for the New Orleans Saints is it's going to be hard to mess this draft pick up as long as you hit on the player you draft because they need everything. The bad news is the New Orleans Saints need everything. It just depends on what you prioritize the most. That secondary group, corner and safety, is looking awfully thin. Just listed off the corners in your room. At safety right now, you have Tyrann Mathieu. You have Jordan Howden. What do you do with Will Harris? Can you re-sign him? Is he going to sign somewhere else? The room's thin on both levels. Now, you can move Tyrann around a little bit. You can move Alante Taylor around a little bit, but you don't really have the bodies to do that right now. It's kind of those guys and everybody else. Very little depth there at that position. You're going to have to address that need early in the NFL draft. Honestly, probably in one of the first 2 picks. Do the Saints reach on a guy like Jedi Barron, or do they maybe roll the dice and grab a corner in the second round? Whether it's Maxwell Hairston, Trey Amos, will they be there when the Saints pick in the mid-40s? We'll find out, but this certainly made the Saints draft situation a whole lot worse because now they have, well, frankly, just another position to think about on top of a growing list of gaping holes on this team that you have to have filled before the season starts. All right, look, we're going to take a quick timeout. When we get back, we're going to talk to Dr. Jeremy Burnham of Ochsner Medical. He hops on every other Monday to kind of break down some of the top injuries in the sporting world. We'll talk to him when we get back, and maybe we'll give you a little bit of LSU news before we close things out in hour number 1. That's all coming up next here on The Hunt Palmer Show, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Audio Video Security Solutions, AVSSLA.com is the website. Mitchell Fisher and his local team are fantastic to work with, and they do a number of things. I talk to you about security systems all the time. They handled ours. If you're looking to get a security system at your business or at your home that's complete with all the cameras, the apps, everything that's got you set up at the top of a button, they can do that for you. They can also help you out with your outdoor entertainment space. If this is the time of year where you love to get out back when it's a little bit cooler, light the fire, listen to some tunes, or watch TV in the outdoor area, Mitchell Fisher and his team at Audio Video Security Solutions can help you out with all of that. They can supply the television. They can supply all of the equipment. Their install at the Palmer House was just painless and easy, and the customer service afterward has been great. They can do simple things like I talked about mounting the television. They can also do complex things as well. So give them a call or just check them out online, avssla.com. It's Audio Video Security Solutions.
At Bayou Automotive, we believe in a sales process that puts you first. We want you to experience an easy purchase with clear pricing and great service. Let Bayou Ford and Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram be your trusted partners in finding your perfect vehicle. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
When you can't rely on technology, you can rely on Mountain Cold Refreshment.
Dave's back on.
Coors Light. Choose chill.
At Auctioner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Auctioner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one: you. Auctioner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Family owned and community driven.
Service Chevrolet Cadillac, a legacy you can trust since 1972. Service Chevrolet Cadillac, our family serving your family.
For over 50 years.
Crime has serious consequences, but anyone can make a mistake. If you find yourself in trouble with the law, know that you have rights, and it's okay to demand them. The law offices of O.C. Brown are here to protect you and your rights. Felony or misdemeanor, DUI or drug charge. No matter what crime you're accused of, you still have rights. Let the law offices of O.C. Brown uphold them. Call 225-343.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products.
Failure happens to us all, but it's how champions evolve.
Welcome back in. Final segment. Hour number 1, a Monday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. Hunt Palmer, a brand new father of 2, so we will be sitting in for him for the next few days. Taylor Sharp in the host chair. Right now, it is time for our sports health segment presented by Auctioner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. And with that, I want to welcome in Dr. Jeremy Burnham. Dr. Burnham, how are you today?
Hey, I'm doing great, Taylor. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Look, Hunt Palmer dealing with a positive trip to the doctor with the addition of his second son. Hunt had his second child yesterday afternoon, so I am in for him. But Dr. Burnham, not everyone in the NFL and sports in general is having positive trips to the doctor because sometimes sports injuries do happen. The big one that we learned last week was Kyrie Irving, the point guard of the Dallas Mavericks. He tears his ACL, and you know, this seems to me, at least, and again, I'm obviously no medical professional, that's why we're having you on, that it's almost, this injury seems like, to me, it's getting easier and easier to come back from. Can you kind of tell us what kind of recovery that involves?
Yeah, you know, unfortunately, there are still a lot of ACL tears that are happening. And I think you're right. I think recovery and treatment and all those things are getting better. But I'll tell you, we still are putting a lot of effort in trying to prevent these injuries from ever happening. And I don't think you can prevent 100% of these. if you looked at that injury in specific, it looked like he just got knocked off balance and landed awkwardly on the leg, and you can't always plan that out. In general, when we're talking about ACL tear, high-level athlete like that, you're looking at somewhere between 9 to 12 months for recovery is the average. And that's based on a couple of things. You have to get the strength and the coordination back. You got to give the ligament time to heal. But certainly we're learning a lot about it. There's a lot of things you can do to speed up that recovery or at least be more prepared when you do go back to return to sports. And so that's where all the focus is right now. Number one, preventing them. Number two, what can we do to get people back safer? We have an ACL Center of Excellence here at our new location at Elite, and we're developing a team of people that are trying to hit these ACL injuries from every possible direction, both to prevent them, but then when somebody does have them, how can we get them back as quick as possible?
Speaking of knee injuries, Dr. Jeremy Burnham joining us right now. Speaking of knee injuries, a guy who's coming back from a knee injury is J.J. McCarthy. So he actually suffered a torn meniscus first preseason game of last year. He wasn't able to return. Word is when offseason OTAs start, he's going to be a full go. As far as maybe the similarities or differences between a torn meniscus and a torn ACL, I mean, how similar are those two injuries?
So, the thing is with meniscus, you can usually come back quicker than you can from an ACL.
Okay.
And sometimes when you tear your ACL, you'll also tear your meniscus. But if you're just dealing with the meniscus, a lot of times you're going to come back sooner. Sometimes all you need to do is go in there and trim out the torn portion. It can be like a little hangnail, a piece of tissue that's just flipping back and forth. And in those cases, those athletes get back very quick, sometimes within a few weeks from getting the knee scope. Sometimes you need to go in there and repair those. Maybe it's a bigger tear, or maybe it's in a spot where you really need to preserve as much of the meniscus as possible. And certainly that's where things have shifted over the last few years. There's a lot more of an effort to try to preserve the meniscus or save the meniscus than before. That can be more of a 4 to 6 month process. But either way, if it's just the meniscus, most of the time you're going to get that athlete back sooner than if it's an ACL. The ACL is unique because you have to give that ligament. Most of the time we're talking about an ACL, we're doing a reconstruction and we're putting a new ligament in there. And there's some things you have to do to just give that ligament a time to turn into an ACL. And even with all the technology we haven't really found a way to speed that up. So that's kind of the difference. But you'll see people come back pretty quick from isolated meniscus injuries sometimes.
As far as, Dr. Burnham, and as far as maybe the most common lower body injury or maybe the easiest one to come back from, in your opinion, what do you think that is sports-wise?
I think that when you're talking about knee injuries like this, I think knee injuries is probably the lion's share of the stuff we see. Of course, you see some ankle sprains, some Achilles injuries, some things like that, but knee is very, very common. When you tear a ligament in the knee, it's a really big deal. Probably the fastest one to come back from is an MCL injury. The MCL is unique because it has some healing capacity in the knee that the other ligaments don't have. And so you can tear your MCL, not need surgery, let it heal, and you can be back somewhere between 2 to 8 weeks from the injury, depending on how bad it is. Most of the other ligaments in the knee, if you have a complete tear, they can't really heal on their own, and that's why they lead to surgery. Sometimes we see these injuries where people just have a bad bone bruise, but the ligaments are okay. Those athletes tend to get back pretty quick as well.
Dr. Burnham, before I get you out of here, you mentioned to Hunt that it is National Athletic Training Month. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for bringing that up. So it's National Athletic Training Month. That's March of every year. And I think that athletic trainers are probably, I think people don't realize how integrated they are into healthcare and how valuable they are. We have 25 athletic trainers in the Baton Rouge region that work for us. And, 15 of those athletic trainers are working with teams and schools on the sidelines. But the rest of them are working within our clinics and our ORs in different capacities. I'm going to give a shout out to one of the athletic trainers that works with me, Savannah. Anybody that's gotten care over here has probably met Savannah. And Savannah really coordinates and runs almost everything involving orthopedic care, from the OR coordination to clinic visits. She assists in surgery. And so I can tell you that, healthcare and especially orthopedics and sports medicine would not be the same without athletic trainers and what they do. They have just an awesome body of knowledge, extremely hardworking, extremely skilled, great experience. And, I just really want to give a shout out to all the athletic trainers, both in Ochsner and outside of the Ochsner system. I think they work harder than most people realize. They're kind of the unsung heroes of orthopedics and musculoskeletal care, and certainly happy to acknowledge and honor them this month.
There's Dr. Jeremy Burnham. Dr. Burnham, thanks for hopping on with us today.
Great talking to you.
Yep, absolutely. Look, at Ochsner Medical, we know that sports injuries can be unpredictable, but one situation you can protect yourself from is safely returning to play after an injury. It's important to seek care by sports medical specialists who expertise is in rehabilitation. To learn more about sports injury prevention and treatment, visit ochsner.com/BRortho. All right, that's going to wrap it up for hour number one. Super busy hour. Look, with NFL free agency opening, trades coming up. We have been super busy. LSU wrapped up their final non-conference weekend of the 2025 baseball season. They will take on Missouri this weekend in a Friday, Saturday, Sunday series. Coming up in hour number two, we are still jam-packed. So the Saints have traded with the New England Patriots. They have signed a defensive tackle to help shore up the D-line. It's a former LSU Tiger that you may be familiar with. We'll talk about a little bit of that. Also, LSU football news. The Tigers were on the practice field for the start of spring this Saturday. A couple days ago is when that occurred. A key name that joined LSU through the transfer portal was not out there at practice. We have an update as to why that may be the case. And then, of course, we will close the show out with Take It or Leave It. Hour number two coming up on the Hunt Palmer Show. We'll have Sports Center at the top of the hour. Then we got some Saints and some LSU football news. That's coming up. Stay tuned for hour number two, a Monday edition of Off the Bench here on the Hunt Palmer Show, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
One Bath and Closets, onebathandclosets.com. David Duvall and his team, 30 years redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. There are a lot of people who are not over the moon with their current home. Well, you can improve where you live. One Bath and Closets is happy to help you do that. Brand new customized closet, brand new bathroom, soup to nuts. They do the entire thing for you. You don't have to call 3 different contractors to get this entire thing done. No, you make one call to One Bath and Closets. They handle the entirety of it. Maybe you're not looking for something that extensive. Maybe you're looking for something like a tub to shower conversion. They can do that as well. You don't reuse that tub. They can take it out, put a glass walk-in shower in, changes the look of your bathroom, changes the functionality of your bathroom, adds value to your home. So if down the road you're looking to move on, that's an asset that you've got right there under your roof. We're worried about paying for it. Financing options are very much available for the folks over at One Bath and Closets. It starts with a free consultation, a questionnaire, and then a plan. They get it done and they do it right the first time and leave the competition behind. It's One Bath and Closets. You can check them out online at onebathandclosets.com.
At Bayou Automotive, we believe in a sales process that puts you first. We want you to experience an easy purchase with clear pricing and great service. Let Bayou Ford and Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram be your trusted partners in finding your perfect vehicle. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
At Ochsner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Ochsner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one: you. Ochsner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood Subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Family owned and community driven.
Service Chevrolet Cadillac, a legacy you can trust since 1972. Service Chevrolet Cadillac, our family serving your family.
For over 50 years.
crime has serious consequences, but anyone can make a mistake. If you find yourself in trouble with the law, know that you have rights, and it's okay to demand them. The law offices of O.C. Brown are here to protect you and your rights. Felony or misdemeanor, DUI or drug charge. No matter what crime you're accused of, you still have rights. Let the law offices of O.C. Brown uphold them. Call 225-343-1111. Your law firm for a lifetime. At Bayou Automotive, we believe in a sales process that puts you first. We want you to experience an easy purchase with clear pricing and great service. Let Bayou Ford and Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram be your trusted partners in finding your perfect vehicle. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
When it comes to choosing energy for your family and your home, make the smart choice with natural gas. You can count on efficient and affordable natural gas to keep you comfortable.
Sports Center.
I'm Doug Brown with ESPN's Adam Schefter holding breaking quarterback news for two teams. The Seahawks will sign free agent quarterback Sam Darnold to a 3-year, $100.5 million contract. Darnold coming off a big season with the Vikings. Adam also reports quarterback Justin Fields will sign a 2-year, $40 million deal with the Jets, $30 million guaranteed. Fields leaves the Steelers, and Adam says Pittsburgh plans to talk with Aaron Rodgers. The Buccaneers will re-sign wideout Chris Godwin to a 3-year deal worth $66 million with $44 million guaranteed. ESPN's Dan Orlovsky.
That wide receiver market is going to continue to shrink, and for a team like New England that needs to add perimeter players, for them to be in that Godwin conversation and not get him for their young second-year quarterback, Drake May, T. Higgins is going to be in massive demand.
That's Dan Orlovsky on ESPN's NFL free agency special.
Hey, it's your resident Super Bowl champ, Chris Candy. Coming up Tuesday, NFL free agency is off and running, and I'll give you my top 5 favorite moves so far. It's Unsportsmanlike, 6 a.m. Eastern, right here on ESPN Radio, ESPN2, and ESPNU.
Now, the Hunt Palmer Show.
Yes! I feel like I've been waiting for this my entire life.
You're listening to the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Jolly good fun. Jolly good.
Locking down the middle of the day.
America's favorite daytime fun show.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Well, it's almost Hunt Palmer. Taylor Sharp sitting in for Hunt Palmer here on the Hunt Palmer Show, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Busy hour number 1 and hour number 2, not slowing down. Look, I've mentioned it multiple times throughout the show, but if for some reason you're just now tuning in and you have not heard yet, Hunt and his wife had their second child yesterday afternoon, so I will be here in the host chair for our guy Hunt Palmer for probably the next 2 or 3 days or so. We'll see how things go and how he is feeling. I want to kind of give you a little hour 1 recap. Look, we did LSU baseball. The Saints lose Paulson Adebo in free agency to the New York Giants, but they also restructured Derek Carr's contract. What does that do for their salary cap this year? What does it do for 2026? Speaking of the New Orleans Saints, want to go back to them a little bit here because early this morning it was announced that the Saints have traded a 2026 7th-round pick to the New England Patriots for defensive tackle Davon Godchaux. LSU fans in the area remember Davon Godchaux. He was here at LSU for a number of years. He came in, he started at defensive tackle as a freshman. He played multiple positions along the defensive line. He's been in the NFL for 8 years. Look, he's had a little bit of an up and down NFL career. I mean, the numbers don't exactly jump off the page at you, but he's been solid nonetheless. I mean, his best year was back in 2019. He had 75 total tackles, 6 tackles for a loss, and 2 sacks. That was his best year. Across his 8-year NFL career, 429 tackles, 20 tackles for a loss, 5.5 sacks on the interior of the defensive line. So looking at those numbers, you might say, okay, well, why did the Saints make this trade? He's, an average NFL player. I like this move for the Saints, and I think it can impact their defensive line in a big way. We've talked about it a number of times. Brian Bresee has shown flashes of being a really good player. Can he put it all together? You need something on the other side of Brissy in the middle of this defense to help free him up a little bit. This gives you that. Signing Davin Godchaux gives you a veteran defensive tackle in the middle of your defense that you can put next to Brian Brissy. Also, Brissy's still a young player. He just finished his second year in the NFL. He's a guy that's still kind of figuring it out because while he played at Clemson for a number of years, he was injured. I mean, his number of games at Clemson actually wasn't that many. He's still learning. He's still developing. A guy who has been there, done that. He's an 8-year pro in the NFL. He can help Brian Brissy learn along the way, almost be a mentor to the young player. It's also a step up from what you had. If nothing else, it gives you an extra body. Colin Saunders has been okay, but you had Colin Saunders, Nathan Shepard, and Brian Brissy. It's really all you had. You were very, very thin at defensive line. I mean, remember, there were talks of, hey, can you move Carl Granderson to the inside? But, I mean, with the amount of pass rushers you have or lack thereof, Granderson kind of has to stay on the outside. I really like this move because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter whether he had 5.5 sacks in his career or 12 sacks in his career. Look, he's a guy that's been relatively healthy. So he has played in all 17 games 3 years in a row for the New England Patriots. 2022, 2023, 2024. In 21, he played in 16 out of the 17 games. So he's a guy that's been relatively healthy. The last time he did not play a full season was with Miami back in 2020. He only played in 5 games due to injury. But, again, I mentioned it, essentially 4 straight seasons with the New England Patriots. He's only missed 1 game in those 4 years. Also, you gave up a 7th-round pick in 2026 to get Davin Godchaux. So again, while the numbers may not jump off, while you may say, man, we needed something more in free agency, at the end of the day, you signed a veteran defensive tackle that can come in and be an immediate starter for you in exchange for a 7th-round pick. Take away the name, take away the numbers, take away whatever. If you bring that to the table for any NFL team, they're probably going to take that deal. Especially a team like the New Orleans Saints who, well, frankly, need all the help they can get. Now that you've got your defensive line on the interior figured out at least a little bit, you're obviously going to try to add another piece or two. But essentially, the front line guys in that rotation is pretty much figured out. Like it or not, that's probably what it's going to be for the New Orleans Saints. What about the edge? Because that's definitely a position that the Saints need to address. It's a position that multiple people have reported that the Saints may target that in the first round. And I know what you're saying. Oh, well, Marcus Davenport, Peyton Turner, you've had so many misses on this position in the first round. I get it, but at the end of the day, a need's a need. You just haven't drafted well. You still drafted players in positions of need. You just drafted the wrong players. You have an entirely new coaching staff. How much are they going to help Mickey Loomis with this draft process? There's also a guy out there that you could maybe re-sign. What do you do with a guy like Chase Young? Look, he's going to command attention from pretty much everywhere. There's rumors that the Baltimore Ravens are targeting him. The problem I have with re-signing Chase Young is not that Chase Young wasn't good last year, because what was your main concern when you signed Chase Young? Right after you got him, it was reported that he had a neck injury, he was going to miss camp, and everyone freaked out. Chase Young played in all 17 games last season. He had 31 tackles, 8 tackles for a loss, 5.5 sacks on the edge. I like Chase Young. I thought he was a fine player for you. You know the talent's there. You've seen it. But Chase Young is going to want a long-term deal. If you're the Saints, are you willing to give Chase Young a long-term deal? Should be the bigger question. I'm going to say no. Like, I like Young, but he's probably going to command a lot of money just because not just fans here in New Orleans, all across the league wanted to see if Chase Young could finish a season fully healthy. He did that. He had 5.5 sacks on the edge. His numbers weren't eye-popping, but the main thing you wanted to see, you saw, was the health of Chase Young. He looked good. He flashed for you at times in some pretty big moments. Chase Young is probably going to garner a little bit more attention and a little bit more money than you're wanting to spend on a player like Chase Young. Because there's a lot of big name guys out there. Matthew Judon is a veteran. I mean, he's up there in age, but he's a super productive player in the NFL. I get that he is linked to the 49ers, but as of this moment, Joey Bosa is still technically out there. Now, a lot of teams are going to be after Joey Bosa. How much are you willing to pay for him? The Dolphins are interested. Obviously, the mutual interest between him and the San Francisco 49ers. He's expressed the desire to play with his brother. I ultimately think that's where he's going to go. But look, if you look at the numbers of Joey Bosa, for the most part, they're there. The last couple of years, it's not that he's been bad. He just hasn't been in the lineup. He signed a big contract after 2021. Since then, he has played in 19 games over a 3-year period, and he has 15 sacks in 3 seasons. Again, in 19 games. So in 19 games, he has 15 sacks. He's actually been pretty productive. He just hasn't been able to stay on the field. But before those injuries caught him, here's what he did. From 2016 to 2021, 10.5 sacks, 12.5 sacks, 5.5 in a year he only played in 7 games, 11.5, 7.5, 10.5. So in his career, he has played in double-digit games 6 times in his 9-year career. He has 10 sacks or more in 5 of those 6 years. When he's on the field, he's a productive player, and he's still only 29 years old. The problem is, if you're not willing to pay a player like Chase Young that much money, do you really want to pay Joey Bosa? Because at this point in their career, I don't know how much difference there is between the two guys. I like Joey Bosa. He's been a lot more proven of a guy, but Chase Young's younger. He's coming off of a season where he played in all 17 games. You can't say that for a guy like Joey Bosa. So while Bosa's a big name, any concern you have with Chase Young, you pretty much got to double it with Joey Bosa. 1, he's older. 2, he's going to command a lot more money than Chase Young. And 3, he hadn't been as healthy as Chase Young in recent years. Up until last year, I would have said, yeah, absolutely. It's just been a bit of bad luck. But Chase Young proved he could stay on the field. Joey Bosa hasn't been able to stay on the field for 3 seasons now. He's missed more games than he's played over that span. So I like Joey Bosa. That might be a little much for me. Price range-wise, looking at what else the Saints need, looking at his injury history over the last 3 years, I like Bosa. You certainly call him, kind of see interest. If he would do that 1-year prove-it deal, I don't think he would, but there's always a chance. So call him, kick the tires on it for sure, but I don't know if that's a realistic option. So if you move on from Chase Young, you don't sign Joey Bosa in free agency. What do you do on the perimeter? Because, again, you got the interior figured out with the signing of Devon Gottschall. If you're at 9 overall and you're not absolutely in love with Will Johnson, like we talked about earlier, and you don't sign a corner round 1, there's a chance you could go edge rusher. And, again, I get it. I know Saints fans are like, hey, we've been bitten by edge rusher enough. I understand that. But you've also reached on a lot of guys. I don't think anybody was chomping at the bits to sign Marcus Davenport and Peyton Turner in the first round when you did that. You reached on those guys. 2 guys that could potentially be there when you're drafting 9 overall actually both come from the Georgia Bulldogs. We know how those players have fared in the NFL on the defensive side of things. Ask the Philadelphia Eagles. The first name I want to mention is Mykel Williams. 3 years at Georgia, 23.5 tackles, 14 sacks, very productive. Scouts love this guy. I mean, he is projected to be a lock in the first round. The other guy is a teammate of Williams, again at Georgia, Jalen Walker. 3 years at Georgia, 19 tackles for a loss, 12.5 sacks. So both very productive players. They could come in, they could be day one starters for you on the edge. Because I'm good with bringing, a Carl Granderson, having him on one side. Carl Granderson's not your number 1 pass rusher, though. Carl Granderson's job will be take a little bit of pressure off the guy on the other side because you have a solid quality pass rusher. You need a stud on the other side of Granderson in order for him to be fully effective, in my opinion. Mykel Williams could come in, potentially be that guy. Jalen Walker could potentially come in and be that guy. If you do that, let's say it is Mykel Williams. You would have a D-line of 2 veterans and 2 really young players. Your veterans being Davin Godchaux and Carl Granderson. And then your young guys, Brian Brzee, who's entering his 3rd year in the NFL, and he's shown some flashes. The consistency just needs to be there a little bit more. And Michael Williams, who was a really good player on a really good defense, was coached by Kirby Smart, who in the college game, best in the business on that side of the ball. We know that. Or Jalen Walker, also at Georgia, also under Kirby Smart. I'm not saying that's what they're going to do in the first round, but you could do a lot worse, especially if you don't want to re-sign a guy like Chase Young. All right, look, we're going to take a quick timeout. When we get back, LSU football was on the practice field for the first time on Saturday for spring practice. There was a notable absence. We'll dive into that, and I'll tell you why. It may not be as big of a deal as people are making it out to be. That's coming up on the other side here on the Hunt Palmer Show, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
You gotta believe in a dream. Believe. You gotta believe in a dream. Believe. You gotta believe. My whole team on wild.
At Auctioner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Auctioner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one. You. Auctioner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further. Like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood Subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Family owned and community driven.
Service Chevrolet Cadillac, a legacy you can trust since 1972. Service Chevrolet Cadillac, our family serving your family.
For over 50 years.
Crime has serious consequences, but anyone can make a mistake. If you find yourself in trouble with the law, know that you have rights, and it's okay to demand them. The law offices of O.C. Brown are here to protect you and your rights. Felony or misdemeanor, DUI or drug charge. No matter what crime you're accused of, you still have rights. Let the law offices of O.C. Brown uphold them. Call 225-343-1111. Your law firm for a lifetime.
Looking for the ultimate game day experience? Come to the Queen Casino in Baton Rouge. Wall-to-wall TVs mean you'll see every touchdown in HD. Place your bets and feel the thrill of every play with our DraftKings Sportsbook. The Queen Casino, where every moment is a win.
At Atmos Energy, our Smart Choice solutions help customers save energy and emissions with rebates up to $500 off high-efficiency natural gas appliances, smart thermostats, and weatherization upgrades. Together, we're fueling our energy future.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way to manage your money and time. Gulf Coast Bank and Trust, the bank that cares about you.
At Bayou Automotive, we believe in a sales process that puts you first. We want you to experience an easy purchase with clear pricing and great service.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products.
Welcome back in. Monday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. Taylor Sharp here with you, sitting in for Hunt Palmer, who is a brand new father of two. Teased it a little bit going into break right there. LSU football team started out on the practice field on Saturday to kick off spring practice. And a guy who is a projected starter on the offensive line was not present. That player is Josh Thompson. He was the transfer offensive lineman from Northwestern. Now, he was not with the team on Saturday afternoon, and here's why. He was back in Evanston completing his bachelor's degree. If you remember, he's a transfer from Northwestern. Unlike LSU, Northwestern works on the quarter system instead of the traditional semester system. Look, he's expected to complete his current coursework and exams by March 21st. He wants to get his degree. He's set to join the team thereafter. Reports are around March 27th. So that's fine because LSU doesn't wrap up their practice until their spring game, which is going to be on April 12th. So he'll hit about half of spring practice. This is a veteran guy. He's played guard. He's played tackle for Northwestern. He's played in a ton of games. I think he'll be fine. Look, he played 4 seasons at Northwestern. He started at both right tackle and right guard during his time as a Wildcat. He's projected to compete at guard and tackle and kind of projected to lock down one of those starting spots, which is ultimately why you bring him in. For what it's worth, according to LouisianaSports.net, a source indicated that LSU's first offensive line, so the starting O-line day one of camp, consisted of Tyree Adams at left guard, Paul Mabinga at left tackle, Braylon Moore, the Virginia Tech transfer, who appears to be taking over that center spot. That allows DJ Chester to kick out the guard, which is his more natural position, which is where DJ Chester was at right guard. And then the highly talented guy that came in a year ago, Weston Davis, at right tackle. That is from left to right. If you remember Braylon Moore, he started 24 games for the Hokies in his career. He is expected to be that first-team center. Again, DJ Chester can move out to guard. Now, when I first heard this, I was like, oh, man, kind of a blow. Not a big deal. Josh Thompson's still going to join the team because, he's already signed. It's not like he's not coming. He's just finishing up his schoolwork. Man, that guy misses out on valuable reps. However, the more I thought about it, there's actually a ton of silver lining here. Look at the younger guys that can get valuable reps in the spring. I just mentioned what the reported starting offensive line was. Let's say Josh Thompson takes over at right tackle. I kind of think that's where he's going to wind up this year. I think they brought him in to play tackle instead of guard. I feel like you're a little bit deeper at guard. So it would be Adams, Mabinga, Moore, Chester, Josh Thompson. But that kind of prevents a younger, talented guy like a Weston Davis from getting as many reps as he's getting. Look at Tyree Adams. He's trying to lock down a tackle position, likely at left tackle. But look at some of your early enrollees that are younger guys. Solomon Thomas is coming in. He's a 5-star early enrollee. Now, he's projected at inside, but again, Josh Thompson can play guard or tackle. Solomon Thomas is going to get more early reps. Carius Kern, he's an early enrollee. He was one of the top offensive linemen in high school football a year ago. Reports are, he came in as a guard. He could play tackle as well. Could he get first-team reps, whether it's Adams, Davis, Carius Kern? And then look at some veteran guys that are trying to crack that starting lineup. Guys like Bo Bordelon. There's a number of guys on this LSU roster that can really benefit from a guy like Josh Thompson not being there. And it's not just the names we know, right? I mean, there's a number of guys. Carr Lee, the guy who redshirted a year ago. Look, he's 6'6", 300 pounds. He's got some versatility. Tyler Moore, the freshman. I mentioned Solomon Thomas. How about Bo Bordelon's younger brother, Brett Bordelon? He's coming in as a freshman. Ethan Galloway, Weston Davis, Tyree Adams. Ori Williams, he's a guy who we heard a little bit about last fall. He didn't get on the field much. Josh Thompson, I'm not worried about as much because I think Josh Thompson's going to be fine. He's been a 4-year starter in the Big Ten at Northwestern, and he started at 2 different positions. I think Josh Thompson's going to be fine, and I think he's going to have one of these starting positions on the offensive line. That's why you brought him in. You needed a veteran plug-and-play guy, and it didn't really matter which position. I think that's going to happen. But now that he's not there, you can have a battle at tackle and one of the guard spots, assuming Paul Mabinga locks down that left guard spot, which is where he started at the end of last season after Garrett Dellinger went down from injury. And I get it, Paul Mabinga didn't start great by any means, but He basically got better every single game. Look, remember the guys who played in the bowl game? A very similar lineup to what we just heard, except Miles Frazier was in there because he played in that bowl game. Very similar lineup to the bowl game. And the guys in the bowl game played really well. I mean, that was the biggest concern for a lot of people going into that game was who's going to be your offensive line? Sure, Garrett Nussmeier looked really good against Oklahoma and Vanderbilt to close out the season. Who's going to be up front blocking for him? They did really well. I don't believe they allowed a sack in that game. That offensive line was really good. All of them were younger guys. Some of them are back this year. Get those guys more reps. Because again, Thompson's been there, done that. He's going to be fine. I'm not super worried about a guy like Josh Thompson getting reps in the spring. Plus, he'll still be here for the second half of spring. He'll still have the spring game. He'll be here for summer workouts. He'll have all of fall camp. He'll be fine. But these young guys can get valuable reps. They can battle it out for a spot. This is a worst case scenario. None of the younger guys look like they're ready to grasp a full-time starting position, but you're building quality depth and competition behind a Josh Thompson when he comes back. That's worst case scenario, which still doesn't seem that bad. Best case scenario is that some of these freshmen and guys that maybe redshirted a year ago blow the coaching staff away. They want them in the starting lineup, and Josh Thompson has to come in and fight for a job. That's best case scenario. So again, you want to see all your guys in there, and then when the initial report came out that Josh Thompson was not going to be there, for the start of spring practice, everyone kind of raises an eyebrow a little bit, like, hold up, wait a minute, what's going on? The guy's getting his degree from a prestigious university like Northwestern. Imagine that, right? A guy wanting to get his degree from Northwestern. How wild? He'll be back reportedly around March 27th. So he'll hit the back half of spring. He won't miss everything. He's played enough football to where he knows what he's doing. So again, you don't want to never not have some of your best players or some of your more talented guys that are projected to be starters. But if you're going to have to, this might be the area to do it because you're bringing in a super experienced guy. I would be more concerned if one of the younger guys had to miss spring. Like if you told me, oh, well, there's an issue with one of your younger guys, like Weston Davis or Carius Kern or whatever, and they're going to miss spring. That would worry me a whole lot more than Josh Thompson not being there for the first 2 weeks of spring practice. It's not something I'm super concerned with. But anyways, Josh Thompson will not be there for the first half of spring practice. He is finishing up his degree at Northwestern. He is projected to be back at LSU around March 27th. All right, look, we're going to take a quick timeout. When I get back, LSU women's basketball wrapped up their SEC tournament run. We'll talk a little bit about that, kind of recap the season, what we want to see from them in the NCAA tournament when it's coming up. We'll also mention a little bit of men's basketball as well. It's coming up on the other side here on the Hunt Palmer Show, 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Highland Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com is the website. Property and casualty or group employee benefits. Your one-stop shop for all things insurance is, of course, the Highland Insurance Group. If you're a business owner and you don't have a great relationship with your insurance broker, they're just the guy who came with the lowest premium number. That's one way to handle it, but it might not be the best way, especially when something happens. Whether it's a hurricane or a car accident or a cyber breach or a lawsuit or an injury. When that happens, you're going to need your insurance to respond. And if you only have the insurance in place because it was the cheapest one, it may not. Jonathan Carr and his team can be a trusted advisor and a part of your team as a business to make sure that your business continues to run even if the event happens. Give them a call or check them out online, HighlandIG.com. They're right here in Baton Rouge, but they can help you out statewide. It's Jonathan Carver and his team at the Highland Insurance Group. They're online at HighlandIG.com.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared toward seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
At Auctioner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Auctioner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one: you. Auctioner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood Subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Family owned and community driven.
Service Chevrolet Cadillac, a legacy you can trust since 1972. Service Chevrolet Cadillac, our family serving your family.
For over 50 years.
At Bayou Automotive, we believe in a sales process that puts you first. We want you to experience an easy purchase with clear pricing and great service. Let Bayou Ford and Bayou Chrysler.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products.
Welcome back in. Monday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. Taylor Sharp sitting in for Hunt Palmer today, as well as the next few days in all likelihood. Okay, so the LSU women's basketball team have wrapped up their run in the SEC tournament. They get a victory over Florida in their round one game, because LSU, of course, had that first round bye. If you like points in basketball, you were a fan of this game. LSU wins it 101-87. The Lady Tigers actually set an SEC tournament record on the women's side of things in terms of points in an SEC tournament game. When you look at the numbers, you can see why it was so high scoring. Florida shot a hair over 47% as far as field goal percentage. LSU over 50%. 79% from the line for the Tigers, 82% from the line for the Gators. It was pretty evenly matched for most of the game. The big difference for LSU was Anissa Morrow, because if you look at Florida, they had 6 players in double figures. However, their highest scorer was Liv McGill, who had 16 points. For LSU, they had only 4 players in double figures. However, Anissa Morrow went off in that game. 36 points, 14 rebounds. Coming into this SEC tournament, we had talked about it a little bit. The women just flat out weren't playing well. They had lost 2 out of their last 3 coming into this. And without Flau'jae Johnson, who missed the SEC tournament, you needed someone to step up offensively. If I told you going into the Florida game, hey, you beat a decent Florida team, you set the SEC tournament record for points in a game, you didn't have Flau'jae Johnson, and your best player, Michaela Williams, only scored 16 points and had an off shooting night, you probably would not have believed me. But that's exactly what happened. Michaela Williams, 16 points, 5 rebounds. Didn't have her best stuff offensively. She did have 8 assists, though. She kind of ran the show for him offensively. Who's going to step up for you outside of Michaela Williams and Anissa Morrow? First off, Anissa Morrow upped her game. I mentioned 36 points, 14 rebounds, another double-double for Anissa Morrow. That's 102 in her college career. But with Morrow stepping up and Michaela Williams kind of dropping a little bit, you needed somebody to pick up the slack. You got it from multiple people. Kaylin Gilbert, who's been hot and cold off the bench, she scored 10 points. She had 3 assists. She had 2 rebounds. She was very efficient coming off the bench scoring for you. Miracle Shepard, who's kind of been inserted into that starting lineup. She's a freshman. She had double digits. She poured in 12 points. Samaya Smith didn't light up the stat sheet, but she did a lot of good things defensively. She had 7 points and 6 rebounds. Sure, their defense lacked at times, which is why Florida was able to score 87 points. But the big things was fouls. I mean, each team committed 20 fouls. LSU also turned the ball over 13 times. They were a little sloppy. I mentioned they shot over 50% from the court, so it wasn't a shooting issue. It was defensively. That's why you gave up 87 points. So while they had a high-scoring game there that they were ultimately able to pull away from at the end, their next game against Texas Longhorns looked drastically different. Texas beat your LSU Lady Tigers 56-49 on Saturday night. A very, very low-scoring game. And the reason for it, you had 2 LSU Tigers in double figures. You had Michaela Williams with 11 points, and then Anissa Morrow, who left that game with an injury. Reports are, though, she's going to be fine for the NCAA tournament. It was nothing serious. Michaela Williams with 11, Anissa Morrow with 10 points. Outside of that, you had one player score 8 and Miracle Shepard, everybody else 5 and lower. You just didn't have it offensively. You shot over 50% against Florida. You shot 33% against Texas. You actually outshot Texas. Texas only shot 31%. You shot 25% from 3. Here's the big difference. You outshot Texas from the court and from the three-point line. Texas, though, 17 of 20 from the foul line for 85%. The LSU women, 9 for 17 for just 53%. That's losing basketball. You're already shorthanded with Flau'jae Johnson, and then Anissa Morrow had to leave the game. And you get outshot 85-52 from the free throw line. There's an old saying in basketball that continues to ring true. Always attempt or always make more free throws than the other team attempts. Texas basically did that. They made 17 free throws. LSU only attempted 17 free throws. Texas was just more aggressive. Because again, neither team shot well from the court. Texas, though, they were able to drive the lane. They were able to have a mismatch down low without Anissa Morrow in there. They were able to take advantage of it. LSU was forced to foul them, and Texas made them pay from the free throw line. You out-rebounded 43-32. That's kind of expected at this point. LSU's not great at rebounds outside of Morrow. Again, turnovers hurt you. You turned the ball over 15 times. You committed 26 personal fouls in this game. So you win a really, really high-scoring game. You lose a very low-scoring game. But here's why I come out of this with a little bit of confidence. You almost pulled out a victory against Texas. You lose by 7, obviously, 56-49. I always talk about it, regardless of sport, whether it's football, baseball, basketball. Finding different ways to win games makes you a better basketball team. You're not always going to be able to go out there and score 101 points. If you can score 101 and win the game, by all means, do it. Sometimes it comes down to this. You were able to hold Texas to 56. You dang near beat them. You were without Flau'jae Johnson, one of your best players. Your other player, Anissa Morrow, was injured all throughout the game. And Michaela Williams had an off night, and you still almost beat this team. If LSU could put those two things together, play defense the way they did against Texas, while shooting the ball better, while getting fully healthy, then this team's going to be a tough out, regardless of who they play in the NCAA tournament. Now, how far do I realistically think the LSU women's basketball team is going to go in the NCAA tournament? I don't know. Do I think this team can win it all? I don't. I'll be flat out honest with you. I don't think they can. If they can, it'll be because of the brilliance of Kim Mulkey. She's one of the best coaches in the business. There's no question about that. The problems I have with this team, even with a healthy Flau'jae Johnson and Anissa Morrow, outside of Michaela Williams, you don't have a super consistent three-point shooter. I mean, Flau'jae gets hot at times, but she's a little inconsistent there. For the second year in a row, you don't have a true point guard. And then even as good as Morrow is down low, she's a little bit undersized. You don't have a dominant post player. So no dominant post player. Very limited on three-point shooting and no true point guard. This team is where they are because of Kim Mulkey. Now, look, obviously there's talented players. I mean, Morrow's great. Michaela Williams, I sat up here last week on Off the Bench and said that I don't know if there's 10 players in the country better than Michaela Williams as far as an all-around basketball player. And then Flau'jae Johnson's one of the most talented guards in the country. We get that. Outside of those three is what I'm really concerned about. Because again, Miracle Shepherd stepped up in a big way. Can she continue to do that? Kaylin Gilbert, she'll have a hot shooting night off the bench. She'll have a little bit of a colder shooting night when she comes in off the bench. You need consistency a little bit more from your big-time role players. Because while I like this team, there's a lot they need to work on. And look, I see the comment about, oh, well, you should have kept Haley Van Lith because she's had a good season at TCU. Haley Van Lith never fit this team, mainly because you didn't have a point guard on last year's team. You were kind of forced to play Haley Van Lith at point guard, and she's not a true point guard. Look at what she did at Louisville. Look at what she's done at TCU. That's at the two-guard spot. You kind of already have that two-guard in Flau'jae Johnson. So I hear a lot of people saying, oh, well, they never should have let her go. I get it. Hindsight's 20/20, but she struggled on this team. She was a good player, but she struggled on this team, at least for consistency. All right, that'll do it for LSU women's basketball. As far as the men's team goes, look, it was a disappointing loss and the end to what was a very disappointing men's basketball season. The Tigers finished with just 3 wins in SEC play. They wound up losing by 14 points to the Texas A&M Aggies on Saturday night. But LSU actually had a lead going into halftime. They were up 32-30 at halftime. Problem is, Texas A&M came out scorching in the second half. LSU wound up only putting up 20 points in that second half. You just don't have quite enough right now. I get it. You have some injuries. You haven't had Jalen Reed for most of the season. Jalen Reed should not make that big of an impact on a team like LSU. Turns out he does because you had nothing behind him. Jordan Sears is actually the one that kept you in the ballgame. Usually we hear that from Cam Carter. Jordan Sears, 21 points. The next highest scorer was Mike Williams with 8. Cam Carter had an off night. Now, credit to Texas A&M. They guarded him closely. They were able to shut him down for the most part. Cam Carter, 7 points. Actually didn't have any until the second half. Jai Bailey with 3 points. Again, Mike Williams with 8. This LSU team, for whatever reason, cannot seem to put it all together. Some nights you'll have Cam Carter go off. Nobody gives him any support offensively. Some nights you'll have a Damian Collins, a Jordan Sears. Guys like that have a really good night offensively. And Cam Carter has an off night. This team cannot put it together. Again, it's a disappointing loss. And it ends a very, very disappointing season. LSU's not going to the NCAA tournament. They're not going to have anything to play for, if at all. There is a slight rumor they could get into the NIT. I don't see that happening. It's just a slight rumor at this point. Where do you go moving forward for this LSU basketball team? As you look at some of the guys that have been staples in this lineup, Jordan Sears, Jai Bailey, Cam Carter, they're all seniors. In terms of guys you could potentially get back, Robert Miller is a freshman, and while he had an off night, look, 2 points, 1 rebound, you have to be better at that. He's looked pretty good down the stretch. He's shown flashes. Can you get Mike Williams back? Can you get Curtis Givens back? Can you get Damian Collins back? You've also missed Corey Chest the last 4 or 5 games of the season. He has an opportunity to return as well. It's up to Matt McMahon to get all these guys back on campus. Because look, in the NIL world and the transfer portal era, especially in basketball, because you only got about 12 guys, you could have a completely different roster from year to year now. This staff's going to have some tough decisions to make. One, they're going to have to spend some money. There's reports that LSU is investing a lot heavier in NIL when it comes to college basketball. And you're going to have some tough decisions to make with where do we spend this money and do we let any of our returning guys walk? It's tough decisions to make. Do you even want to bring back a Collins or a Chest or a Robert Miller? I actually say yes to all 3 of those. Williams and Givens gets a little bit more tough, but I mean, look, Robert Miller late in the season shown flashes. Damian Collins has been a really solid player for you. If he wants to come back, I think you do welcome him back. And Corey Chest was good defensively. He has a lot to work on offensive-wise, but he was a highly recruited guy coming into LSU. He redshirted last season. This is his first year in action. kind of got thrown in there a little bit, had to take on a bigger role than probably what Coach Matt McMahon and the rest of the staff wanted him to take on because of the early injury to Jalen Reed, which forced him to miss the entire season. So again, a disappointing end to a disappointing season. Where will this men's team go next? As far as the women, they still have a lot to play for. Looks like they're going to likely be somewhere between a 3 or a 4 seed in the upcoming bracket when it is released. We'll see how far Kim Mulkey can take the Lady Tigers. All right, we're going to take a quick timeout. When we get back, we're going to wrap up the show like we do every day with a little bit of take it or leave it. That's coming up next on the Hunt Palmer Show. 104.5 ESPN.
The Hunt
Baton
Palmer
Rouge.
Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge, genesisofbatonrouge.com. They're the only Genesis, fully exclusive Genesis dealer in the state of Louisiana, and they're right here in Baton Rouge. I told y'all earlier this week, we were driving, my wife goes, oh, that's that car I really like. It's a Genesis. And she had no idea that I even do this. I was like, yeah, they're really nice. They're really, really nice. And you should know it too. You don't see a ton of Genesis on the road because it's fairly new to our city here. They've only been at that location for a year and a half, but go check it out. It's a luxury vehicle. It's a luxury experience to be a Genesis driver. That means 3 years of complimentary maintenance, a 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty. It's a luxury experience at a reasonable price over at Genesis of Baton Rouge. Every single car that's on the lot at Genesis of Baton Rouge is online at genesisofbatonrouge.com. And all of them, every single model, from the entry level to the highest end, come with the same safety features. Safety is a priority for Genesis. Go check them out. Genesis of Baton Rouge. They're online at genesisofbatonrouge.com. That's Genesis of Baton Rouge.
You work hard every day to pursue a life you love. You put in the time, and it shows. You're forging ahead, chasing a dream, creating something better for the ones you love. You're building your own life. So why not build your own tractor? With John Deere tractors and attachments for almost any need, the Sunshine team can help you do just that. Check out our current promotions and learn more about what it means to be powered by Sunshine at sunequip.com.
Family owned and community driven.
Service Chevrolet Cadillac, a legacy you can trust since 1972. Service Chevrolet Cadillac, our family serving your family.
For over 50 years.
Baton Rouge's home for real rock. It's Eagle 98.1. Foo Fighters. Led Zeppelin. AC/DC. Pearl Jam. And the flagship home for LSU sports. Take us anywhere with the Eagle 98.1 app. Eagle 98.1 is the rock station.
Crime has serious consequences, but anyone can make a mistake. If you find yourself in trouble with the law, know that you have rights, and it's okay to demand them. The law offices of O.C. Brown are here to protect you and your rights. Felony or misdemeanor, DUI or drug charge. No matter what crime you're accused of, you still have rights. Let the law offices of O.C. Brown uphold them. Call 225-343-1111. Your law firm for a lifetime.
At Auctioner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Auctioner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one: you. Auctioner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood Subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of...
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products.
Registration for the Effects European Bracket Challenge is now open. You can start registering now at 1045ESPN.com, and then be sure to come back and get your picks in after the first games are announced. The selection Sunday, the person with the most accurate picks this year will win $1,000 in cash. You can also join us at the Louisiana Outdoor Expo at the Lamar Dixon Expo Center this weekend, March 14th through the 16th. Head over to our front or back booth and register for your chance to win a U10 New Canoe, a compact, versatile kayak perfect for fishing and hunting adventures. Visit 1045ESPN.com for details.
All right, welcome back in. Final segment, Monday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. Taylor Sharp sitting in the big boy chair for our guy Hunt Palmer, who is out being a dad. Literally, him and his wife had their second child yesterday afternoon. Congratulations to Hunt Palmer. He will be back presumably a little bit later this week. We're not quite sure on that yet, but he'll be back at some point. All right, let's close out the show like we do every day. Mr. Jacob Beck with Take It or Leave It.
Take it or leave it.
Take it or leave it.
Today's hottest stories in sports, news, and sometimes even Hunt's life. The question is, will he take them or leave them?
Just take it. All right, first one here. DK Metcalf to the Steelers. Take it or leave it.
I'm taking this. I think this is a great trade for the Steelers. Reports were this weekend that the Seahawks actually lowered their asking price. They originally wanted a first and third round pick. They settled for a second round pick. So, look, you get a really good receiver for a second-round pick. You pair him with a George Pickens. You still have Najee Harris in the backfield, regardless of who your quarterback is. Russell Wilson, there's reports it could be Aaron Rodgers, whoever it is. They're going to have a ton of weapons to throw to. You still have Pat Freiermuth. I like the potential of this offense. I think it was a good signing.
All right, next one here. Bowling Green has hired Eddie George as its next head football coach. Take it or leave it.
I'm going to take it. I'll take it. Eddie George was at Tennessee State for a number of years. Look, he's at Bowling Green now, which isn't terribly far from Columbus, Ohio, where he was able to win the Heisman Trophy. Look, more and more former players are getting hired at lower-level schools and making their way up. Deion Sanders started at Jackson State. He's at Colorado now. He's entering his third season. Michael Vick just got hired at Norfolk State. He'll be in his first year as a college football head coach. For what it's worth, Eddie George, his team actually went 9-4 a year ago. They made the FCS playoffs for the first time since like 2013, I believe it was. So he did some nice things there. We'll see what he can do with Bowling Green. I like it.
Next one, this is probably one of the bigger headlines from the NFL today. Justin Fields signed a 2-year, $40 million deal with the New York Jets, with a majority of that guaranteed. Take it or leave it.
I'll leave it only because this might be my only leave it of the day. However, I could kind of go either way on this one. For those who know me and have listened to me on Off the Bench on this show when I fill in, knows that I am no fan of Justin Fields. I don't think Justin Fields is a very good quarterback. However, you're the New York Jets. You don't have anything. You have Garrett Wilson. You got a couple good running backs. That's pretty much it. You just got rid of Devontae Adams. Aaron Rodgers is not re-signing with your team. What do you actually have? Can Justin Fields' athleticism give you something offensively? And like Beck just mentioned, 2-year, $40 million deal, only $30 million of it guaranteed. So you're essentially paying a starting quarterback $15 million a year. You're not going to get much better than that. So I think it was a good signing money-wise. I just don't know how Justin Fields is going to work in New York.
Yeah, I don't think it's a bad signing for them. I take a chance. I mean, what do they have to lose at this point? The Jets have just completely fumbled the bag with Aaron Rodgers. Not all to their fault, of course, but you know it didn't work out. So you might as well take a chance on a younger quarterback who was a first round pick. So.
What is Aaron Rodgers going to do? Aaron Rodgers is going to be like me and you, sitting on his couch on Sundays. In the fall. Like, it sounds like he's like begging the New York Giants to take him. The Raiders are obviously not doing that anymore.
Well, like we said.
And then he was linked to the Seahawks. They're obviously not doing that. If I'm the Steelers, I'm just keeping Russell Wilson at this point. Like, he's a lot less of a media distraction than Aaron Rodgers. So Aaron Rodgers is in a tough spot. Yeah, I hate to see it.
All right, last one here. The 49ers and Chargers are reportedly in talks with Jameis Winston to sign him as a backup. Take it or leave it.
I'm going to take it.
I'll take it.
So, look, I have criticized Jameis Winston's ability to be a starting quarterback in the NFL multiple times. Me and T-Bob, we have a playful banter back and forth on OTB about this exact topic pretty much all the time. But the way I've always said it is, I will take Jameis Winston on my team depending on what your goal is. If your goal is to have him as a starting quarterback and intentionally lose to get a higher draft pick, I'm for it. I think Jameis Winston, one of the better backup quarterbacks in the NFL, which is why I'm taking this. I think Jameis is a very good locker room guy. Every team that he's on appears to love him. I mean, you saw him at the Super Bowl doing all the interviews, doing all that for Fox Sports. I mean, he was awesome. He had like 128 million views over that entire Super Bowl week. The guy is a rock star when it comes to the media. Excellent personality. Again, like I mentioned, excellent locker room guy. And if I need him for 2 or 3 games to come in and be my starting quarterback, I'm good with that. But if your goal is to win games as a starting quarterback, I don't think Jameis Winston is your guy because I don't think he's a very good quarterback. However, as a backup and to boost team morale, I am all for it. I think this was a great signing for whoever gets him.
Well, I'm kind of, if I'm the 49ers or Chargers, I'm kind of looking back at his history, and it seems like everywhere he goes, the starter gets hurt and he ends up playing. So almost like, man, is Jameis Winston like bad luck for the starting quarterback for my team? Because everywhere he goes, he ends up playing. So
yeah, but again, though,
obviously not a serious thought, but just something that pretty funny to consider.
Well, and who are you going to get other than Jameis Winston? That's better. That's better in that role.
Not great options.
There's nobody you're going to get. I mean, look at some of the free agents. Again, Sam Darnold's off the market now. You're not going to go get Aaron Rodgers because he doesn't have the ego or the want to be a backup quarterback. I mean, Jameis Winston, probably your best option. All right, that's going to do it for a Monday edition of Off the Bench. We'll be back tomorrow. We got a lot to break down. Saints, LSU spring practice, some LSU baseball. Matt Moscona driving you home.
The Hunt Palmer Show.